17 states listed together in a lawsuit challenging a federal law on disability rights, calling it unconstitutional. Advocates and lawmakers pushing back, claiming it strips away protections for those who need it. Dylan Domingue explains why the lawsuit was filed and how the Kansas AG's office is responding.
This lawsuit centers around Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, which is a federal law that prohibits discrimination against those with disabilities and ensures they have equal access to education. But the lawsuit specifically challenges a rule changed by the Biden administration to include gender dysphoria under the definition of disability. Parents across several states are now pushing to keep the protections in place for their kids.
Right now, it really allows him to be on an even playing field with his peers.
Kara Klein's son is able to get the accommodations he needs in school because of Section 504.
It allows him extra time on his tests. So for written tests, it's a little hard for him to write. So it gives him some extra time if he needs it.
But she fears what would happen if those protections are taken away.
I'm sure some of his teachers may still give him those accommodations, but without having that legally binding document, who knows what kind of support he will have.
In this lawsuit filed last September by 17 attorneys general, including Kansas's Chris Kobach, it claims that Section 504 is unconstitutional and points to the Americans with Disabilities Act, stating the ADA explicitly excludes transvestism, transsexualism, and gender identity disorders from its disability definition.
Some lawmakers decided they wanted to continue punching down on the transgender population, and what that has done is throw entire other groups of people, vulnerable people, into the line of fire.
This week, several lawmakers and advocates pushed back, asking Kansas to drop out the lawsuit, citing resources that are relied on daily could be at risk.
Please just drop this lawsuit for me and for my other friends too.
I think not having a 504 would be unconstitutional.
And in response to those concerns, Attorney General Chris Kobach says he wants to amend that lawsuit. In a statement sent to us, his office says in part, state attorneys general stepped in, filing a lawsuit to prevent the 504 program from being used to promote a political agenda, rather than being used to help children with disabilities get the education they deserve. Our office did not intend to challenge the entirety of Section 504. We have asked the coalition to remove the constitutional claim from the complaint as it was entirely unnecessary. And that lawsuit is pending while President Trump's administration reviews Biden's proposed rule change.